Hi, and welcome to 647, 6 stories for 7 a.m. because there's a famine of truth in our land. And this is your quick news fix, and the truth starts now. All right, it's Monday, and there's no tapas fooling around right now. We're going right to the main entree, and it comes from the carnivore diet. So stop with the 3L Atlas questions. It's nonsense. You're about to have a civil war. And our opening story is from a fantastic, objective, learned individual named Jonathan Turley. And he is writing a piece about we may be nearing when the resistance looks completely different. Democrat leaders ramp up resistance rhetoric. Why are they doing that? Because they want to open the government? No, because they want to force an issue and they have billions of dollars to spend on what they euphemistically call Riot Inc. All right, let's go with Jonathan here. He says, despite calls for many Democratic politicians and pundits to temper their inflammatory rhetoric, this week has proven a further escalation in this dangerous form of rage rhetoric. DNC Chair Ken Martin, that's the Democratic National Committee for our Bloomingdale friends, just told MSNBC's The Beat that we may be nearing the moment when elections don't matter and then the resistance looks completely different. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer called on people to forcefully rise up. With political violence on the rise, these leaders are clearly fueling the mob in hopes that they and their party can ride the wave of rage back into power. History suggests that it is a foolish delusion. Today's revolutionaries quickly become tomorrow's reactionaries. Great example, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, Democrat, New York, who pictures himself brandishing a baseball bat, has previously called upon people to fight in the streets. California Governor Gavin Newsom previously declared, I'm going to punch these sons of bitches in the mouth. Both of these pussies will never be anywhere near violence, but they are fomenting it. Virginia Democratic gubernatorial nominee Abigail Spanberger called upon her supporters to let your rage fuel you. She then refused to withdraw her support for the Democratic candidate for Attorney General, Jay Jones, who once expressed his desire to kill his political opponents and their children. It's unbelievable. And this guy, his justification for all this was that he was exposed to racism growing up in Virginia. Okay, let's just clear that up for a second. He lived in the most affluent suburb of Virginia. His mom and his dad are both judges. It's unreal. These people are broken-minded and they're dangerous. Okay? In his podcast with co-host Al Hunt, James Carville was again spewing unhinged hate. He returned to treating Trump and others as Nazis and their supporters as collaborators. He later attacked me, meaning Jonathan Turley. Doubling down, Carville declared, yeah, now, y'all better know we do with collaborators. I think these corporations, that this nightmare ends in 2029, and I think we ought to have radical things. I think they all ought to have their head shaven. They should be put in orange pajamas and they should be marched down Pennsylvania Avenue and the public should be invited to spit on them. To be sure that his menacing words were not lost, he then added, the universities, the corporations, the law firms, and all of these collaborators should be shaved, pajamaed, and spit on. There was no later pushback by his co-host, Hunt, or anyone else associated with the podcast. As one of those Carville has already attacked, I expect he has a haircut and public humiliation in mind for me and a significant number of others deemed insufficiently committed to the resistance. Even with the assassination of Charlie Kirk and the attempts on Trump and Justice Brett Kavanaugh, these politicians and pundits are still fueling the madness. Even with the sniper attack on ICE officers, they are still calling these law enforcement officers Gestapo and Nazis. In my book, this is Jonathan Turley's book, The Indispensable Right, Free Speech in an Age of Rage. That'd be a good book to get. He goes, I write about rage and the uncomfortable truth for many engaging in rage rhetoric. Here's an excerpt. What few today want to admit is that they like it. They like the freedom that it affords, the ability to hate and harass without a sense of responsibility. It is evident all around us as people engage in language and conduct that they repudiate in others. We have become a nation of rage addicts, flailing against anyone or anything that stands in opposition to our own truths. Like all addictions, there is not only a dependency on rage, but an intolerance for opposing views. Indeed, to voice free speech principles in a time of rage is to invite the rage of the mob. He goes on to say the appearance of guillotines has become commonplace in left-wing protests. From protests against Trump to those against Israel, the symbol of the terror is being rolled out as a warning to those with opposing views. We got the guillotine, you better run. All right? So my position is not to instigate violence. My response to we got the guillotine and you better run is 2 full magazines and 1 in the chamber. Come, get some. All right. Anything else he has to say? Yeah, he's got one more spot. Democrats sound, this was a response to his article by somebody. And I want you to notice, this is not a hate-filled response. It is just an objective response from a reader. Democrats sound just like the Confederacy. California, Washington, Oregon, and Illinois are seeking to separate from the Union by not obeying federal law. This is a Fort Sumter moment and movement, and Trump should not flinch. He should arrest the Confederates for obstruction of federal law and sedition. That's it. That's what needs to happen. It's not happening. Okay, for all the bluster and 20 trillion in investment. All right, take 2. President-elect Kathy, Marxist, elitist, big government, Connolly. All right, President-elect of Ireland. And I'm taking this from the Jerusalem Post because all the legacy media, they cannot get enough of this chick. Okay, they're getting the thrill up their legs that this big government Marxist woman is elected in Ireland. And guess what? Ireland's not having it. The elites are having it, but the rest of the people want no part of this. The election of far-left anti-establishment candidate Catherine Connolly has Irish president has split the country, not least its Jewish community. So remember, this is the Jerusalem Post. It's going to be very Jewish-centric. Connolly, who won in a landslide on Saturday, has called Israel a terrorist state and a rogue state on several occasions, and has also said that history didn't begin on October 7th. Further, she has stated in the past that Hamas is part of the fabric of the Palestinian people. I would hope that President Connolly will take the opportunity in due course to engage directly with Ireland's Jewish community, hear our concerns, and understand better how the conflict continues to affect our small community here. However, not everyone was so enthusiastic. Catherine Connolly personifies the Irish left and Sinn Féin's anti-Israel hostility and embraces its narrative, counting amongst her political supporters those who advocate Israel's replacement by a Palestinian state. Irish lawyer and Ireland's former Justice and Defense Minister, Alan Shatter, told the Jerusalem Post on Sunday. At every available opportunity, she demonizes Israel repeatedly, accusing it of committing genocide in Gaza. She's depicted Hamas as part of the fabric of Palestinian society when objecting to the exclusion of Hamas from a future governance of Gaza. Shatner noticed that Connolly has strong support for the obsessive Israel-hating Irish social media community and public exhibitionists, including Kneecap. I don't know who Kneecap is. Shatter added that while the position of president is constitutionally essential, but not entirely ceremonial, doesn't have much power as president. Connolly's anti-Israel rhetoric will gain a broad audience and possible additional credibility, further souring Ireland-Israel relations and contributing to escalating anti-Semitism in Ireland. She's a product of the Irish government pandering to and adopting the narrative of Israel's most extreme critics and the government parties failing to nominate credible, articulate presidential candidates. Well, Israel could also try telling the truth occasionally. And all of this, the fact that the best article I can find is the Jerusalem Post, is there's a famine of truth. That's all I can say. This woman is an extreme lefty, big government, social Marxist, red communist. And here's what none of these journalists are telling you. In all districts in Ireland, there was a huge write-in protest on the ballots. So when they say she won by a landslide, it's because 60% of the voters were writing in other people. So none of those other write-ins were getting a majority. They were protest write-ins, right? Like when people go in and write in Mickey Mouse or whatever. Okay, that's why they're saying she got a landslide. It's disingenuous. It doesn't tell the story at all. In all districts, there was a strong write-in protest as an FU to the lefty elites that run the government there. In several districts, the write-in was over 60% of the ballots. And legacy media will never tell you this because they are too busy cheerleading for Kathy the commie. All right, take 3, if I don't drop any more stuff on my keyboard. Satan's best effort. Arrest of cartel baby trafficking ringleader La Diabla. If you think we are stupid Bible thumpers for saying this is a battle between good and evil, listen up out there. The work of La Diabla is a message to all from Lucifer, the angel of light. Let's go. The Office of the Director of National Intelligence, National Counterterrorism Center, provided intelligence that supported U.S.-Mexican intra-agency operations and the arrest of a Jalisco New Generation Cartel affiliated baby trafficking ringleader, Martha Alicia Mendez Aguilar. okay? Also known as La Diabla, right? The feminization of the devil in Juarez, Mexico. The joint operation executed by Mexican law enforcement officers disrupted an infant trafficking network led by La Diabla that lured pregnant women to remote locations, then performed illegal cesarean procedures to take the babies, and then harvested their organs from the mothers' bodies and sold the newborns to couples in the U.S. for up to 250,000 pesos. You got that? You're advertising that you'll help unwed mothers, and then they come and they cut the baby out, they take all the organs, they murder that person, and it's all about money. This is one example of what terrorist cartels will do to diversify their revenue streams and finance operations. This is a quote from Joe Kent, the NCTC director, former Navy SEAL, awesome guy. NCTC delivered critical intelligence on La Diabla's location and developed comprehensive analysis that enabled U.S. and Mexican law enforcement partners to take action. Kent says, I am proud of our team's ability to work with our forward deployed U.S. partners. I love the sound of that. Forward deploys U.S. partners and Mexican law enforcement to stop these horrific acts. NCTC remains committed to disrupting all aspects of terrorist cartels and their operations, and in case the lives of innocent women and children depended on it. The arrest was supported by U.S. Marshal Service, El Paso, the U.S. Department of State's Diplomatic Security Service, Federal Bureau of Investigation, El Paso, U.S. Customs and Border Protection, and executed by Mexican law enforcement partners and Fiscalía Especializada en la Mujer. Okay? This is what Trump had a meeting about last Friday, a huge meeting. And he said, we are coordinating now from the bottom to the top of law enforcement, and we are going to rid the cartels of any presence in our country. Counterterrorism operations on both sides of the U.S.-Mexican border are coordinated by the Homeland Security Task Force. All right, more of that, please. Unbelievable. Take 4. Dems are always looking in the wrong end of the gift horse. Timothy Mellon is Trump's $130 million mystery military donor. Okay? So this is taken from a New York Times argument. I haven't read that paper in over 20 years. I despise it. And listen to them villainize this gift. The mystery donor, whose $130 million contribution is meant to pay U.S. military troops during the government shutdown, is Timothy Mellon, an heir to a renowned Gilded Age banking family, the New York Times reported Saturday. You're supposed to hate him already based on that first sentence. But Mellon's donation works out to only about $100 per service member. So he's no good because he didn't pay the entire military budget. It costs nearly $6.4 billion to pay U.S. troops every 2 weeks. So somehow $130 million is denigrated. And using his money might run afoul of federal law. Oh, lawfare, Timmy, for his gift. According to the Times, which cited 2 people familiar with the matter in identifying the billionaire railroad magnate as the donor. In other words, evil billionaire. All the other billionaires that are paying for riots, they're cool. We like them. Not this guy. They made their money in railroads. When President Donald Trump announced the donation at the White House on Thursday, He did not identify the man by name, but described him as a great patriot and a friend of mine. And he's a big supporter of mine. Trump told reporters on Friday night, he's a wonderful man and he doesn't want publicity. Why? Because the left will show up and attack his family. Mellon has an estimated net worth close to $1 billion, according to Forbes. But in an email to the news outlet in 2024, Mellon wrote, "Billionaire not, never have been, never will be." I don't know what he meant by that. They don't know what he meant by that. Mellon's contribution aims to help cover the cost of U.S. military personnel's salaries and benefits as the federal shutdown drags on. What could be wrong with that? Oh, everything, according to the New York Times. The donation might have violated the Anti-Deficiency Act, which bars federal agencies from spending funds that have not been appropriated by Congress, the Times reported. Mellon's gift is also unlikely to go far in offsetting the cost of military pay, so it's no good. There are more than 1.3 million troops in the active duty military, and the Trump administration's 2025 budget included a request of around $600 billion in military compensation, the Times reported. Mellon, here's where we get him, whose grandfather, Andrew Mellon, was one of the longest-serving Treasury secretaries, is a longtime Trump donor. So you have to hate him. He contributed $50 million to Trump's super PAC during the 2024 election cycle, one of the biggest single donations ever publicly shared, the Times reported. And now we get the word from a Democratic senator. A spokesman for Senator Chris Coons told NBC News that the Delaware Democrat is concerned about allowing anonymous donors to fund government spending. He's not concerned about the laundromat they've been running for over $300 billion in Ukraine, and they're all getting kickbacks from it, especially the Delaware group. He says, using anonymous donations to fund our military raises troubling questions of whether our own troops are at risk of literally being bought and paid for by foreign powers. You mean like the entire Biden family selling us out to the Chinese Communist Party? Is it something like that, Chris? We haven't heard one word from you on that, you jerk. All right, take 5. California Dreamin'. Republican Steve Hilton. You may have seen him on Fox. He's a really great analyst. He's leading in the polls for California governor. I mean, Newsom's way up there, but he's ahead of everyone else to go after that spot. Republican Steve Hilton leads the latest poll for the California governor's race in 2026 in a stunning result that indicates an electorate hungry for change. The poll by Emerson College, lefty, confirms that the Golden State is as left-wing as ever. Fully 57% support Slick, the Democrat candidate for governor, Gavin Newsom, proposal to gerrymander California's congressional districts, overriding a constitutional requirement for an independent redistricting commission. Yeah, he's not going to do it legally. However, Hilton, a conservative commentator and policy analyst, fiercely critical of the governor in the state, is leading the poll ahead of every major Democratic Party candidate, including former Rep. Katie Porter, who was one of our advanced reprobate mind candidates, totally a lunatic. Hilton's lead is well within the poll's 3% margin of error, and overall, the Democratic candidates in the poll outweigh the Republican candidates. But aside from Porter, there is no Democrat polling in double digits. But Steve Hilton is. And Porter's campaign is largely believed to be over after a recent explosive tirade against a CBS interviewer who was throwing her softballs and she couldn't hit, right? People like this need T-ball. That's it. That's all they can do. The fact that a Republican leads the poll could entice another, stronger Democrat candidate to enter the race. Senator Alex Padilla, Democrat from California, largely a non-entity in Washington, is considered a possible contender. No, he's not. Newsom's approval rating in the polls is just 48%, though that is its highest mark over the past year. You know, Slick thinks he's going to be president. He really does. And he thinks Kamala is going to be his vice president. These people are nuts. Okay, so now, take 6, advanced reprobate mind syndrome. We're going to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. I'm getting more questions about 3L Atlas than I am about any important major issue in our country. Like, we're about to have a civil war and everybody's enthralled with this nonsense from that goofball Avi Loeb. So I'm going to give you some facts about 3L Atlas that you can't get from Avi, or he won't give, because he's a media suck-up. And why does the media just fall all over themselves for this guy? Because 3L Atlas is a shiny object that takes your eye off the ball. And the eye off the ball is that these people are fomenting violence. They all participated in the killing of Charlie, and they mean to do us harm, okay? That's real harm in your suburb where you least expect it, and most of you are not prepared. So 3L Atlas is an interstellar comet discovered by the Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System. The acronym is ATLAS, and there's a station out there looking for things that could threaten the Earth. The comet follows an unbound hyperbolic trajectory past the sun. It will not come closer than 1.8 AU, astronomers' measurement, almost twice the distance of the sun from Earth. Okay, that's how far away it's going to pass. So it poses no threat. Can we say it again? It poses no threat. It is the 3rd interstellar object confirmed passing through our solar system after 1L, Oumuamua. Who names these things? There must have been somebody in Hawaii. And then 2L, Borisov, hence the prefix 3L. It is not expected to brighten enough to become visible in binoculars or to the naked eye. During solar conjunction on 21 October, the comet could be observed by the GOES 19 weather satellite. Great. So 3L Atlas will come closest to the sun on the 29th of October this month at a distance of 126 million miles away from the sun, which is between the orbits of the Earth and Mars. The comet appears to originate from the Milky Way. Okay? All good facts, none of it hyperbole, all just nice, objective, reasonable data, what we can't get from the legacy media because you can't handle the truth. What you like is shiny objects. You're like that kid in the crib looking at the mobile overhead. It's a spaceship. Yeah, it's a spaceship. 3L Atlas is recognized as an interstellar object because of its extremely hyperbolic path and very high speed relative to the solar system. 3L Atlas did not pass close enough to any of the solar system's planets to have gained its speed, so it could not have originated from our solar system. Tracing the path of 3L Atlas in the sky shows that the comet originated from interstellar space in the direction of the constellation Sagittarius near the Milky Way's galactic center. Last bit of data for us. Parent star and information. 3L Atlas is like a breakup when a star breaks up. This thing's the size of Manhattan, okay? So it's much larger than anything that's passed over 100 million miles from us. 3L Atlas cannot be traced back to its original parent star because the comet has been traveling around the Milky Way for billions of years. You got that, folks? It's been traveling around the Milky Way for billions of years. It's not a spaceship, which is enough time for it to be mixed around with other stars. It's likely that 3L Atlas's speed has undergone changes during its journey through interstellar space via gravity assists from close encounters with stars and nebulae. A September 2025 study by Yi-Yang Guo, you all know his work, right? Yi-Yang? He's on it. And collaborators found that SL Atlas may have passed within 1 parsec. I hope you all know what 1 parsec is. Well, I know. It's 3.3 light years. It came within 3.3 light years of 25 known stars in the past 10 million years. What are we talking about this thing for? I know why we are, because Avi Loeb loves attention, media attention. And the legacy media goes, can we put this in their cribs and will they stare at it? Can you keep it going for months? And Avi goes, oh yeah, I get bonus at MIT because all these kids coming out of high school, they believe this is a spaceship. And they're going to come and study at MIT, and their parents are going to pay a fortune for this BS. So Avi, Harvard professor, head of the Galileo Project, and the left loves anything that could potentially be alien intervention. So again, this thing's the size of Manhattan. Why has it come to us? These are the things Avi is saying. Why has it come to us? Obviously, they know about Trump. This is the way these idiots think, okay? Is it a comet or a spacecraft? He's literally saying this, right? A decorated Harvard professor. When you see him interviewed, there's nothing but plaques and everything given to this guy. And he's telling you something that's been going around for billions of years is potentially a spacecraft. It could affect markets and politics. This is what he's saying, right? Markets and politics. What, people are going to sell their stock because you say this thing the size of Manhattan is a spacecraft? Politics, we all know what you're talking about. Well, they'll come here and they'll definitely take Trump away. It could be a mothership. He said this on NBC News. This could be a mothership. And that goofy woman was just fawning over him because he knows that some of you are going to hear that. My gosh, it could be a mothership. That means there are going to be little scout ships coming out of it like Star Wars. We may find Elroy and Scooby-Doo on it. I always knew they were lefties. You know what it is? That Scooby-Doo and Elroy, it's because George Jetson was a weak puss, all right? That's why they went left. And they went with the aliens, and now they're coming back. And the leftists know about it somehow. It could be a black swan event, says Avi. When we think it's a comet, and it turns out to be a Trojan horse, and the trapdoor opens up, and a Great Dane sticks his head out and goes, "Ruh-roh." Yeah. Dems love this. So December 19th, write it down in your calendar. The mothership is closest to our planet on December 19th. And these are Avi's words. Closest to our dating partner in this interstellar blind date. This is how this goofball talks. Avi says, a blind date could be nice or it could be a serial killer. I'm so scared, Avi. You got me going. That's all I'm going to talk about all week is the mothership. Yeah, we won't talk about the Civil War that the Brotherhood of Benevolent Billionaires is funding through Rent-A-Riot. That's the thing you need to be focused on. What I need to be focused on is whether or not you're sharing us, you're liking us, you're making meaningful comments on YouTube, right? That's what I need. But most of all, I need you to push us out to your network. We're growing. It's good. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying we can all do more, right? And I'm going to do more right now because I'm going to ask my Father in heaven, who always does more on our behalf, to bless each and every one of us for Monday, the start of the work week, that we might all do our work to the honor and glory of his name. That means do it right, do it righteously, do it with clarity, do it with creativity, do it with integrity. And dear God, please bless everybody. All right, folks, kick it off. No more mothership talk.